what they pay.
Well, I wonder if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you make a lot of money, you think you deserve a lot of money. But I have a question for Professor Warren, which is, there was a story the other day about Paul Volcker, who is an advisor, of course, to the White House. And the story basically said that Mr. Volcker would like to go back to basically the system we had before with the Glass-Steagall Act, where investment banks were separated from commercial banks. And that would be really putting the genie back in the bottle. Are you in favor of that, Elizabeth?
Well, look, whether we want to call it going back to Glass-Steagall or we want to call it going forward to some kind of systemic risk regulation, the basic problem is still there. We cannot be in a circumstance where the American government says, I'm going to stand behind the financial institutions that take Americans' deposits and clear their checks, and I'm going to let them go to Las Vegas and bet everything on Red 22. And if that collapses, you'll still come back to the taxpayer in order to get paid off. We have to find a way to keep separate the kinds of gambles that the Wall Street folks want to make the big bucks that produce the big compensation, separate from the part of the system that we have to guarantee and stand behind. In that sense, God bless Paul Volcker for at least pushing that issue back on the table.
Well, too bad nobody's listening to him. Well, let's see who else we can get from around the table to comment on this. Hold on, Mike Bart.
There's no mystery about these compensation packages. It's what would happen if you're in charge of paying yourself. And I can tell you that if I was in charge of paying myself around here, there would be no money left in the building for Barnacle.
There's another question, too, which, Elizabeth, if you can take a crack at this, I'd appreciate it. You know, what Ken Feinberg did yesterday, terrific. I think everyone applauds it. It was about time, and it makes everyone happy to read about it in the paper. And, you know, the conduct of the big banks and the big financial institutions, Morgan Stanley, has been reprehensible. But my question to you is, where were the regulators for the past decade, 15, 20 years? How did so many people drop their duty along the way?
Slathering. They were slathering each other.
No, that was the board. Now we're talking about
I'm talking about the regulators.
The two words were arrogance and cozy. And when we talk about cozy, it's not only cozy with all the guys on your board, it was so cozy, smoochy with the regulators that the regulators bought into the same game. Gee, if you get paid a lot of money, you must be really smart.
Are they still
the way it should be run.
Are they still in the job? Are those regulators who were cozy with the banks, are they still on the job?
They are not only on the job, they are among the people who are fighting large parts of regulatory reform.
But what are they, civil service? You can't fire them?
How is this happening?
Okay. I mean,
oh my God.
Right. I mean, part of the problem with the regulators, as you know, and Maria brought up derivatives. Regulators didn't understand derivatives. They didn't understand all these new markets. The bankers didn't understand.
Let's get Joe in here. Joe in San Diego, chime in.
I just want to say, I think as far as personnel decisions, I think the president's made two big mistakes. And I've said from the beginning I thought Rahm Emanuel was a mistake because he's a very partisan person. He doesn't help Barack Obama become post-ideological. But the second huge mistake is that he's put Paul Volcker over to the side like he's a relic from a different age, and instead taking guys that I've always respected, Larry Summers, Geithner, but people that were there when Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked, whatever, burned the city down. Paul Volcker, I think, is a guy, Elizabeth, that if the Obama administration had listened to more from the very beginning, I think maybe we wouldn't be in the trouble we're in today, because this is a guy that doesn't really give a damn whether he's left or right. If you push interest rates up to 21% to kill inflation, you don't give a damn what the old boys club thinks of you. You just want results. Elizabeth?
I'm with you on Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker also has a moral compass. Paul Volcker grew up in a time when corporations were paying their executives proportionate to overall how they paid everyone else. And he still sees that as an America that works. Good for him.
I think he's been too marginalized, unfortunately, over the past 9-10 months.
Yeah, why is that? Why isn't anybody listening to Paul Volcker?
He's not in the club. I mean, this is, in the end, a very small club. The people, let's face it, as Elizabeth said, of regulators, the people that created this mess over the past decade are the people that are still running our economic system.
It's amazing. Elizabeth Warren and Rick Stengel, thank you both very much.